this is good cacao.
It is good. I'm almost finished with mine here.
Yeah, I thought the powder would be more convenient, but when you ground up the chips, it tastes way better actually. Because I actually tried to make like a cacao milkshake with powder,
Yeah.
and it sucked. Like when I went down to Iquitos, Peru, I had like this cacao milkshake, and everybody that knows me that's gone down there with me like knows that I'm like obsessed with it. It's like the only place I want to go when I'm there because I just love that thing. It's like a chocolate milkshake with no sugar. It's made up of cacao and coconut milk, and I don't know if they put anything else in there. I tell them no sugar, so I don't think there's sugar in there, but it tastes so good. And I was trying to replicate that, and the thing I made sucked. It was just like a really gross powdery, like little chunks. But I realize now that the powder that I got wasn't actually thin enough. And when you brought your coffee grinder and you actually ground up like the actual chips, it was way better.
Yeah, and I just discovered that by accident because I got that to grind up some seeds that I was using to balance my hormones. And I thought, well, let's try these cacao nibs in here, and man, it made a big difference.
Yeah, it's really good. Like it's like what problem I always have when I make a cacao drink, like the tea, is it's not really that thick. It's really thin. Like I'll just heat up the cacao chips in water, and then I'll strain them, and it'll just be like watery tasting cacao.
Yeah, it's like a tea.
And this is actually thick without even adding anything.
Yeah.
Shit, blows my mind a little bit.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I like it. But I do put like a half a cup, well, maybe a third cup in there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Of the powder. Yeah.
I'm going to have to get more bags next time I go.
Well, yeah.
It's a long journey, though.
To go get cacao nibs.
Yeah, I realize next time I go, I'm just going to bring like two or three pairs of clothes in that big bag, and then I'm just going to fill the whole entire thing up with stuff.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
Yeah, this last time I was like overloaded with things, and I still wanted to get more stuff, but I couldn't fit it in my bag. So
yeah, well, I just ordered a 5-pound bag of cacao nibs, organic cacao nibs, and that's what I've been using. And I could tell that they're not as fresh as what you brought back from Peru.
Yeah.
But when I grind them up, they're like fresh. They're like that because there's a lot more. You can tell there's a lot of cocoa butter in there because it sticks to the sides of the little grinder.
Yeah, I wonder how much fat is actually in there.
Yeah.
Or how much it assists the keto diet.
Yeah. I'm not sure, but I know that recently I was listening to a podcast that was talking about adding some cocoa powder, unalkalized cocoa powder, to a smoothie or to a drink every day.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah, well.
So, anyway, well, first off, Sam and I are, we're trying to decide what to name our podcast, and I think we've come up with something, and we thought maybe we would call it Rock Solid.
I like Rock Solid. I feel like that's how we're trying to become. We're trying to become more genuine people, and I think that translates over to becoming rock solid. You know, like rock solid is, being genuine and being able to like understand yourself completely in a way, and things along those lines. And I feel like this podcast we're doing, those are the kind of things we're talking about. We're like trying to figure out how to bring ourselves into being a more rock solid, state of mind.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that even though we may not be rock solid in every area, that's our goal. Like you said, it's our goal to be rock solid. And so, yeah, I really like this name. I think it fits what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Nice.
Being rock solid. So,
nice idea.
But anyway, I'm Chris Kemp, and I'm Sam's mom. And one of the reasons that we decided to do a podcast together is because we like having deep conversations.
Yeah, we definitely have some good ones over the phone.
Yeah.
I kind of wish I We just record our phone calls every time whenever we
Yeah.
do like health coaching conversations, especially.
Yeah, and because of those deep conversations, we decided that we would like to share some of those with whoever would like to hear them.
Yeah, I'll see if we can translate them over and do like a podcast setting because I know that's you're more nervous when you're being recorded. You
Yeah.
know somebody's watching, even though nobody's actually watching this, they will be. You know, like either on YouTube or through podcast version, audio version.
Yeah.
So
Well, I try not to think about that. I'm trying really hard not to think that other people are going to watch me.
well, I think that's another good thing about making a podcast is you just get better at um, being more fluent when you're put on the spot.
Yeah, it's true.
And like even though nobody's even watching us right now, like we feel like I feel like I'm on the spot in a way, you know, even though, you know, we don't even have to release this if we don't want to, but
Right.
like you just feel that. And obviously the more you do it, again, the more fluent you'll get at it. Like that's just how everything is. The more you practice, the more comfortable you get with it, and
It's true.
the better you get at it.
Yeah, that's true. And I recorded the first time I ever recorded myself and posted it on Facebook.
Yeah.
I cleared my throat all the time. I was constantly clearing my throat, and so as I did post it, and then as I watched it, I just thought, I don't even care. Just do it. Just put it up there because it's never going to be perfect.
Yeah.
And so I did, and it might bug people, but you know what? It's okay. It's okay.
Yeah, I know how it goes too. And I was listening to like some other recordings that I was speaking on. I realized I said a lot and things like that, and a lot of people do that. They don't even realize it.
Yeah.
So,
Somebody, one time when I was in college, so I was like 19, 20 years old, a friend of mine was studying psychology, and he said, you know what, when people go, and you know, he said it's like there's a mental brain fart going on.
yeah, I have a lot of those.
And he said, I do too. And I thought, that's really true. It's like a dead space in there.
Yeah, you're trying to fill it.
It's like the computer is ticking away or whatever.
Yeah, that makes sense. Whenever I go, I'm like thinking the next thing I'm about to say.
Right.
Yeah. It's funny.
It's true.
I've actually never really thought of it. I just noticed that it was really annoying when I do it all the time.
Yeah. Well, and I've noticed that when I taught a writing and speech class with a friend, and the kids that were that were doing these speeches, it was really interesting to listen to them, and you could, because you were paying attention to how they were talking, and the little the little things that they would include in their speeches, and so it made me more aware of it, and now I'm a little nervous about it, but I will try not to worry about it because I will do it.
Yeah.
And so anyway, but well, so just why don't you tell us a little bit about you before we
About me?
Yeah, before we get into our topic that we have chosen today. Tell us a little bit about you. Tell me.
Well, I grew up in Idaho. I mean, that's where you currently live. I moved here to Salt Lake City, Utah, like 3 years ago, and it's been amazing. I've met tons of awesome people. I've been in a really cool band while I was here, and I've recently left just because it wasn't really taking me where I wanted to be in life. And recently, the past like year or 2 years, I've been slowly really getting into psychedelics, especially, and I think we're probably going to talk about that a bit on here, about some of my experiences, and so I've been pursuing that route. Like, so I've been really getting into going down to Peru and doing ayahuasca retreats, and I've been spending a lot of time learning about other psychedelics and getting more involved in those, and actually trying to like spread them through the community, and I'm also trying to like, I'm all about being healthy and exercising and like being like the most optimal human possible, and I feel like psychedelics they've had such a bad rap put around them because the people that have done them the last 20 years, I mean, there's definitely some amazing people out there that have done them, but a lot of the people, at least around here in Utah and Idaho, like they're mostly just kids that are burnouts and just high school kids that want to get messed up because they just want to party. And psychedelics are so much deeper than that. Like they're not really great for partying, you know, like I think about like people that like get addicted to things like heroin and meth, and you don't see those people like doing mushrooms and doing other psychedelics because they make you dig into yourself. And people that are like addicted to things, they're not trying to dig into themselves, they're trying to escape from themselves, really. And so like those things do get mixed in with like things like heroin and meth, and like just because they get sold together, like the drug dealer sells them together because they're illegal,
Right.
but they're really the opposite. They help you get out of addictions, and people that are addicted to things, they're the most scared of them. And you hear a lot of stories from people like them of how they had really bad trips, and their bad trips are really just them having to go in and deal with their problems that they've been letting build up, and then they like see those and like, I don't want to deal with this, so they don't do them anymore, and they get extra scared of them. And you know,
Yeah.
so
Well,
I'm not sure where I was going with that, but
so I did listen to Michael Pollan, and he wrote
Joe
the book.
Rogan?
What's that?
on the Joe Rogan podcast.
Yes, I did, on the Joe Rogan Experience podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. He was on there. I think it's podcast number 1121. And Michael Pollan wrote the book How to Change Your Mind. And I believe that title comes from using psychedelics.
Yeah.
Because from what he was saying, that psychedelics are used the way he believes they should be used, because he wasn't a hippie, so to speak.
Yeah.
He was
Yeah, he didn't even do psychedelics till
No.
he was 65.
no, and he did them. He felt like if he was going to research it and learn about it and teach about it, he needed to experience it.
Yeah.
And so he learned a lot about psychedelics and medical treatment. And so they call it trip treatment. And it's actually at the Johns Hopkins Medical Center that they use it.
Where's that at?
I think it's in Boston. I'm not sure. Anyway, I think it's back east somewhere. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that's where
I've
it's
heard
at.
of it. Yeah.
Yeah. And so that's where he's actually been back there, and I think he works back there. But they call it's kind of interesting when I was listening to him, because he was calling it a guided suicidal experience.
Huh. I don't remember that. I guess I need to listen to that podcast again.
Yeah, listen to it again. But I was really listening to it for information.
Yeah.
So I was taking notes. That's what I did.
I like to do that actually for podcasts, but you know, sometimes I'm driving when I listen to stuff, and
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I do that too. And so a lot of times I'll go back and re-listen to stuff, because
Yeah.
there's a lot of things I think, I need to write that down, and I can't because I'm driving or I'm working or doing something. But anyway, so what a guided suicidal experience is, that he says is a very controlled and internal experience that actually changes your thought patterns and changes the way changes your paradigm.
yeah.
And not everybody has a positive experience. Like you said, some people have bad trips.
Yeah.
So the bad trip is where he said most of the time the people that have bad trips are ones that are very closed-minded to it
Yeah.
and are kind of coerced into doing it.
Yeah.
And they are not open at all. And so if you're
Yeah.
going to do it, you need to want to do it, and you need to be very open to whatever comes for you through that experience.
Yeah. Well, I've noticed, like, I've heard, I don't know who said it, but like one guy said that there's no such thing as a bad trip. And I actually agree with him, just from my experiences. Other people that have had what they would call bad trips would obviously think differently. But I think a bad trip would be considered something, or a bad trip is really just somebody that can't let go. And I had one friend that she did ayahuasca, and the whole time, like, she couldn't let go, but it seems like she learned from that afterwards. Like after she realized, man, I am not good at letting go and accepting things.
Yeah.
And like that was a lesson in itself. Like when you have a bad trip, I think usually every single time the reason why it was such a bad time is because you couldn't just accept it. Like you got put on a roller coaster. Like, I don't like this roller coaster. Get me off now. Imagine being on a roller coaster and you're locked in and you're like, get me out of here. And you're like trying to pull the
Yeah.
handle off and you're trying to get out. That
That
sounds,
would be a horrible
yeah,
experience.
that would be the worst experience ever.
Yeah.
But if you can just like sit there and in the roller coaster and just breathe and just be like, all right, I mean, the roller coaster, it's only going to last for about 10 more minutes. And once I get to the end, it's going to be over. I'll be okay. Nobody dies on this thing, you know, like nobody's ever died on this roller coaster. And
Yeah.
so you just stay in there and you realize that, and you get to the end, and sometimes it turns into an awesome experience. You know, maybe sometimes the end gets really awesome, but if you're like trying to escape the whole time, you know, that's rough.
Yeah.
And I think about that, like on one of my last retreat I went to in Peru, I did a really intense ayahuasca session, or one of my ayahuasca sessions was really intense, and I was sitting there, I was like, man, this is kind of rough. And I realized, like, man, I can only imagine somebody doing this that freaked out over it. Like, I could easily freak out and like try to escape, even though I know it's not going to do anything. I'm experienced enough to where I know that doesn't work, so it's easy for me not to do that.
Yeah.
But I can only imagine somebody like being like having this weird sensation from the ayahuasca that I was feeling and be like, I can't do this. I got to get out of here. Somebody help me. Like, that would just ruin everything.
Yeah.
And I had that feeling right at the beginning when I started feeling it. And I was like, this is rough, but I'm just going to try and relax and just accept it. And it was rough for about maybe 10, 20 minutes, something along those lines. And then it became like one of the most beautiful experiences of my life. Just because I accepted it, and just accepting that experience changed the entire thing. So, again, I don't think there's really such thing as a bad trip if you can look at it in the right way.
Yeah. I can see what you're saying. You can learn from anything is what you're saying.
Yeah.
So like your friend in Peru, she
Yeah.
learned from that, even though it was really hard on
she
her.
definitely did.
Yeah. And really you can apply that to anything in your life.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
can.
without a doubt. Like,
Yeah.
I mean, we're always trying to hold on and control things, and that's one of the great lessons from psychedelics is the more you do them, the more you can practice letting go, and that just transfers over to situations, especially when something goes bad. Like maybe you're doing a business deal and it goes south and you lose a bunch of money and you're dwelling on it, you're trying to fix it, and sometimes it's better just to let go and accept it, and that can really relieve a lot of stress. Like,
Yeah.
letting go relieves a lot of stress, and especially in this day and age, more than any other, it seems like we have so much stress going on, and that stress is making you gain weight, and it's really having a lot of negative effects on you. It may be the cause of most of our physical problems.
Right. And I do think it is a huge cause of a lot of problems. And also I just wanted to share with you another thing that the guided suicidal experience, they did that with people that had tried to commit suicide or that had a lot of suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
And so they did that, and 80% of the people that did the psychedelics and had that experience, actually it reduced their desire to commit suicide.
That's amazing. I mean, I can totally see that. I mean, I'll go through periods of depression, and I mean, I guess you can call it depression. There's just like sometimes things are just so built up in my mind out of like anxiety and stuff that I just want to like curl up in a ball and die. And like,
Yeah.
and that's usually just from, I think for me, it's usually just from so many things going on, and me going so hard at work,
Yeah.
and all that combines together. And sometimes after work, I'm just like, I can't, it's like, I just feel like super empty and like, you know, kind of broken. I know like everybody probably knows how that feels. And especially with like psychedelics like mushrooms, they can really like just help reverse that. And that reversal can last for a long time sometimes. Like, and I am reading Michael Pollan's book right now, How to Change Your Mind. And like, I'm only halfway through it because I'm a really slow reader, and part of it, they talk about a study where they had a group of people who did psilocybin mushrooms, and some of their
What's the name of the chemical?
well,
Psilocybin?
yeah, psilocybin is the
Psilocybin.
is the
Okay.
yeah, psilocybin is the psychoactive ingredient,
Okay.
in mushrooms. So if you hear psilocybin mushroom, those are the ones that will make you have a spiritual experience. Um, but where was I? So
Sorry.
yeah, the people did the study. I just said again.
That's
So
okay.
the people, at least I'm becoming more aware of it. So the people did the study. It was, I don't know who it was, this couple scientists, and they got like 30 people together, and they gave some of them a placebo, and they gave some of them psilocybin mushrooms, and it was obviously easy to tell which ones were doing the psilocybin because they started having really intense experiences, and they would have them in like a setting where they lay on a couch, and I'm not sure if they would like wear a blindfold, and they would have like one of the dudes that are studying like sit there with them and talk them through it, and afterwards, I think like most of them like said that like it was like the most spiritual experience of their life. I don't remember the exact ratio. I think it was like 80% or something. You have to read the book and get the exact one, but most of them said it was the most spiritual experience of their life, and some of them have said it was incredible as in compared to like their firstborn child or another experience I forgot. You have to read the book to go more into depth
Okay.
on that study, but what I was trying to get at with this study is like a year later, like they would report that these benefits that they gained from that psilocybin experience with the mushrooms, it carried on for at least a year, and their family members would account for that too. They would tell them like, yeah, they're still improved the same amount from like doing this a year ago.
Yeah.
And it's incredible how long they can last. Maybe they could even last up to a lifetime just from doing one experience. I mean, obviously there's no studies for that.
Well, actually, Sam, I think that Dr. Pollan, I guess I think he's a PhD.
Well, I don't
Is he
know
a
what he is,
medical
but he is a
doctor?
scientific journalist.
Okay, so
Yeah.
one of the things that he said was that Larry Hagman, I don't know if you know who he is. Anybody that's older will know who Larry Hagman is. He was on I Dream of Jeannie. He was the military guy that was her, who she loved, the guy in the movie. And then also he was on Dallas, and most people will know him as JR. And
Yeah, I don't know.
well, I can't even remember his last name. Anyway, but he was on Dallas, and he was a really mean guy. But he was asked what did he feel like was the turning point in his life for success, and he said when he did LSD and when he was
Yeah.
really young,
That's
and he only did it one time.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even think about like that's another thing that gets talked about in this book, like how I don't know psilocybin how much, but like LSD. I mean, it seems like that chemical could have like revolutionized and like bumped the tech revolution like that started like in the 70s or something.
Well, it could, because I think Steve Jobs, he did psychedelics, and anyway, there were a number of very highly successful people that in their names that we know that do psychedelics. Now,
Yeah.
one thing that I think we need to bring up here is that psychedelics can also cause psychological trouble for certain people. So, for instance,
Yeah.
people with schizophrenia or with certain mental disorders can actually make it worse. So,
Yeah.
so I think that's the disclaimer right here from what we're talking about, is that, I mean, even though most people have really positive experiences with it,
Yeah.
that there are some people that should never ever do it, and so this is what you need to just be aware of. So this is our disclaimer, and we're just sharing information and our own opinions and
Yeah.
and what our experiences and thoughts are in regarding to psychedelics, and also I want to get into also your experience in Peru, but let's finish a little bit more about psychedelics, because
Yes.
I want to know more about what ayahuasca is and
Yeah.
what that.
So back on the disclaimer, like when it comes to like negative effects on people, like I don't really know, like that's a tough one for me because like I have heard about people having negative experiences on it, but like, or like, I mean, not negative experiences, but like maybe people with schizophrenia, like, like it like affecting them in a negative way. And I actually even heard about one person that he became like really, he thought people were out to get him after he did him. And like, I don't know the I feel like that's really rare, and it's hard to actually say like how that actually happened, because I feel like there's like, there's a million factors that come into everything, and like maybe these people that have had these negative experiences where they freak out and they're not the same afterwards in a negative way, like maybe they have some serious psychological trauma going on in their mind, or I mean, but it seems like even when people have serious psychological trauma going on in these minds, the psychedelics work best for them. So it's like maybe there's something genetic going on in them,
Right.
or maybe they have I don't know. It's hard to say, but like the benefits the chances of like the benefits compared to the negative benefits seem to be like outweigh the negative benefits so much that I don't know. It's just hard for me to like know how to like
How to understand how
how to go down that road and like and discuss that, because you don't
Yeah.
want to scare people away from something that's so powerful and so amazing, and that like at least for almost everyone in my life and everyone that I've seen has only had benefits and like improved their lives totally. Like people I know, like I don't know if this is exactly why they quit their jobs, but I've had two friends that have quit their jobs this year after like doing psychedelics, and I feel like it is related to them, because I feel like that's something they would never normally do. And they quit their jobs because they didn't like their jobs. They weren't making them happy. And when you do things like mushrooms, it's, from what I've noticed, it enhances it enhances your vision. And when it enhances your vision, like everything's more beautiful, and after the experience that carries over, so you gain like this appreciation for life better, and for nature and wherever you are. But it doesn't only enhance your vision, it also enhances everything going on inside of you. So the way you feel, your emotions, your thoughts, they become like crystal clear in a way, so you can actually see them, and sometimes you can see what causes them, and you can see if like some of the thoughts and emotions you have that go with them are valid and are worth having in your life. And a lot of them are like, no, I actually don't need this in my life. It's like kind of, it's hurting me more than anything.
Yeah.
And a lot of people's jobs are, hurting their happiness,
Right.
And
Well,
so you see these things crystal clear, and then afterwards that sticks with you. It carries over, and you're like, this is not making me happy at all. It's honestly not even worth living in some way, because I'm so unhappy, and if you're unhappy, why do you want to be alive in a way? It's like, I want to be happy, I want to enjoy life. And so
yeah.
for these two friends that I have, they quit their jobs, and they're like, I don't know if they're happier now, but they got rid of one thing out of their life that was taken away from their happiness, or from feeling good.
Yeah, and as I think about this, I realize that there really is a purpose for everything that God puts on the earth, and that is out there. Because, for instance, like with psychedelics, we know that they're illegal,
Yeah.
and they're illegal for a reason, because they have been abused. However, having said that, they're not addictive.
Yeah, they're like opposite of
And
addictive. They cure addictions, like
yeah,
at least from all this, everybody that's done them and the studies that have been shown from them. So it's kind of
yeah,
crazy.
yeah, and there's no lethal dose.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, with I mean, there might be with ayahuasca. I'm not sure, actually, on that, but there isn't with psilocybin. I know that, and there
But
isn't
maybe
with
that's
LSD.
I've got that information from Michael Pollan.
Yeah, and I actually don't know if there is for ayahuasca either. I do know with ayahuasca, if you combine other things into it, it can become lethal.
Yeah.
But those are other things that
But
are
see, I
combined
think
into
that's
it.
the way it has been with.
I guess that
like
is how it is with
LSD,
everything,
or with
like
everything. I mean, you can die from marijuana too if it's been combined with something.
yeah,
bad
yeah.
for
I do.
you.
I have heard like LSD is. There's been LSD that's been floating around that's combined with chemicals, so they can sell it for cheaper, and it can hurt you. It can have it can give you physical damage.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's a good point.
Well, okay. Well, let's go into more of your experience in Peru. I mean, what is ayahuasca?
So ayahuasca is a vine. So ayahuasca actually won't get you. It won't like send you on like a psychedelic or spiritual journey. Ayahuasca, it's just a vine that grows around a tree, and I think it actually like eats off the trees, and it's kind of like a weed in a way. But like when you take the ayahuasca just by itself, it's a cleanser. It'll make you puke. It can make you shit. it's like it just like cleanses your body, and it's not necessarily a fun experience, but once you get cleansed enough, you know you can take it, and sometimes you don't puke or shit, like, and so you can tell that like after you do it for a while, like you're cleaned, and then it just seems to have more benefit than not. Or maybe I'm explaining that wrong, but it's a cleanser. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah.
But when you combine ayahuasca with this plant called the trachuna plant, the trachuna plant has DMT in it, and DMT it's called dimethyltryptamine, and DMT can give you a psychedelic experience. Apparently, when people have those things called near-death experiences, the idea from what I've learned is that, I don't know how scientific it is yet or not. I do know DMT is created in your body, like that's for sure. But apparently when you're about to die, the DMT in your body gets released, and you have a DMT dump. And so those people that are having those near-death experiences, they're having a DMT trip. And the near-death experiences that people describe are pretty much exactly the same in a lot of ways as people who smoke DMT. It's like they have the same kind of experiences. And so DMT in the trachuna plant is the stuff that gets you high, or sends you on a spiritual journey. So what you do is, but the thing is with the trachuna plant, if you just eat that leaf by itself, when the plant hits your stomach, something like the acids will like disable the DMT so it doesn't go active. And so like you can eat that plant all day and you're not gonna have a psychedelic experiences. But when you combine the plant with ayahuasca and you cook them together, and we actually did this on the retreat, like we chopped up the ayahuasca vine, and then you like put it in the pot with water, and then you put the trachuna leaves in there, and then you cook it. And when you combine them together, for some reason the ayahuasca will make it so the DMT and the trachuna plant will go active in your stomach. And so again, like I was saying before, the ayahuasca cleanses you out, and then when you combine the DMT with it, that gives you like a trip. The DMT becomes a cleanser too somehow, because it's combining with the ayahuasca. So not only is the ayahuasca cleansing your body, the ayahuasca combines with the DMT, and it also cleans your mind somehow. And like, so you have like a mind cleansing experience too. And it's incredible, like, especially when you can like look at it like that, like this, you're combining this plant with this other plant, and combining them together will help cleanse your mind. It's powerful. So that's how those work. That's a long explanation. Okay. Yeah, but to go into I guess I should just start talking about the jungle retreat.
So I just wanted to ask you, so maybe before we go into the rest of your retreat and what you did, is I wanted to ask you about your actual experiences that you had with ayahuasca. When you took it, what did you feel? What did you experience? What happened to you? I know it's different for everybody, but what was your experience?
So it's hard to explain it fully. So on the retreat, it was out in Iquitos, Peru, and Iquitos, the only way to get there is by boat or plane, and it's smack dab in the middle of the Amazon jungle. So we meet out there. I met up with my friends Victor and Natasha. Victor owns like a retreat center out in the middle of the jungle. It's about a 2.5 hour drive from Iquitos. We rent a van. We drive out as far as the road goes to this little town, and then Victor has a boat there, and he has a driver, and we get in with them, and they take us out to the lodging. So that's where we're doing the ayahuasca, and he has a shamans he brings out. His friend Alias, he's an awesome shaman. He's been doing it like I think his whole life. And first, I don't know if this is not a very positive thing for me to say, but like when I see somebody and like they're muscular and like you can tell that they're like they've been taking care of themselves, for some reason I trust those people better, because like they want to have, they're living a higher quality of life. Like they care about improving the quality of life. Yeah. And I could tell with that shaman, like the other shamans I had, they were awesome the last time I went out, but they were pretty out of shape and all that stuff. And it's not a big deal, but like when I like get somebody who's like this old dude that's like shredded and you could tell he's just confident, yeah. It's like this guy's legit. So he brought out this dude named Alias. He's his favorite shaman to bring out. He's from the Shipibo tribe, And the Shipibo tribe, the people in that tribe have been doing ayahuasca for apparently thousands of years. So it's just been being passed down to him. And you know, he's from that tribe, so it's just he's a legit dude. And he brought out this other shaman too. It was a lady, I don't remember her name, but she's from the Shipibo tribe also. And so both of them together, they conducted the ayahuasca ceremonies, and we did 3 of them total. And how they kind of work is like the first. So we did 3 of them total, and how they work is we have like a circular room called a maloka, and probably around 8 o'clock or something, we go out to that room. They have like bed mats that go around the entire thing, and we had about like 10 people that were out there, and Victor and Natasha were facilitating. They weren't taking the ayahuasca. They would sit there and they would come help people, you know, and the shamans, they actually drink the ayahuasca with you, so they're like, they go into that world, and they guide you through that world. And it feels like when you go deep with ayahuasca, it feels like you're connecting with them, and like they're guiding you. I don't know like if it's an actual real thing or not, but like it feels like it, and it's something else. And they do that, you know, multiple times a week when they're on retreats. And so we all sit around in that room in a circle at like about 8 o'clock at night, and then shamans will come in. They have their thing of ayahuasca like in a container, a bottle, and one person will go up at a time, and they'll pour them like a shot glass of ayahuasca, and you drink that down real fast, and it's pretty gross. It's
like just a shot glass.
Yeah, it's like a little shot glass.
Oh.
The shamans I had the first time had like a double shot glass, but these guys just had a normal shot glass. And
so that sounds like it's easier to get down than what I was imagining. I thought you had a big cup of it or something.
Yeah, not with ayahuasca. It's not that bad. But when you puke it up and then you do it again, it just gets worse and worse every time.
Sounds terrible.
You're puking it up, and you know, whenever I have a psychedelic experience on ayahuasca, I always puke at least one time.
Yeah.
And then after I puke, I'm usually good. But so I'm like, you know, like you drink it and then you're puking it up and tasting the puke, and it gets old once you do that all the time. So
yeah.
So it's not that bad, but people say it's gross. I think it's partly because it gets really old after a while, you know?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
So, again, we did it 3 times. Actually, the first 2 nights, I didn't even feel it. Like, I didn't even feel it. And that happens sometimes. Sometimes you won't feel it. But let me continue how the ceremony went. So everybody sits down after they drink, and then they blow out the candles. And when the candles get blown out, it's pitch black. You can't even see your hand in front of your face. So you're sitting there in the pitch black. Everybody's quiet. People are actually smoking mapachos, too, Mapachos are like cigarettes, but it's like, I think it's just straight tobacco. And they do that because they think like smoking mapachos wards off demons. So like, I think a lot of the people there, they don't smoke at all. Natasha doesn't smoke normally, like cigarettes, but people smoke during the ceremonies because it's a tradition to do that, and it's supposed to ward off demons. So that's something they do. And, so there were people doing that in the pitch black, so you could see like the ends of the cigarettes like lighting up, you know.
Oh.
But so you just sit there for a while, and I mean you can lay down if you want, but it's suggested that you sit up as long as you can. And again, the first 2 nights I didn't even feel anything. Like the whole time I was just like getting kind of anxious and stuff. And sometimes I feel like just getting anxious is like a purge in itself, because like when you drink the ayahuasca, you're getting cleansed, and you know, people will call that a purge. So you're like and you can purge in different ways. Like you can purge in like just yawning. Like if you just yawn a bunch, that's a purge of itself. You know?
Right.
And I feel like this may be wrong. Maybe I just have anxiety because I'm like sitting in the middle of the dark, and some things I didn't mention is like there's bugs all over the freaking place. Like,
well, that would give me anxiety.
Yeah, like there's maybe I shouldn't bring it up, but there was like in this session we had, there was black wasps flying around at nighttime, and they were in the room. And they weren't bugging anybody, but they were there, and if there's a light on, they'll eventually head towards that light. They're slowly going to that light. Like when you light the candle up in the middle of the room, like all the bugs just gather in the middle. And they try to fly into the fire. They fly into it, and then their wings burn off, and then they try and they still try to get into it even after their wings are burned off.
Wow, it's just like a bug's life.
Oh yeah, it totally is. but it's like all the bugs, like even the cockroaches.
Stay away from the light. Don't go toward the light.
Yeah, and this room we were in, like, it wasn't. There's another Maloka that's like deeper in the jungle we usually do it in, but that room was like infested with black scorpions.
Yeah.
And so they needed to get rid of that infestation before we like started going out there again. And that's my favorite one. So we're doing this Maloka here, and like it had a lot of bugs getting in it. And honestly, it seems really bad, but everybody was completely fine. Nobody got bit except for me.
You got bitten?
Yeah, I'll go into that in a second. Oh. So like everybody was really good, and like like you really don't have to worry about it. Like you see a lot of bugs, but it's not like you're normally going to get bitten. Like there's people walking around in their bare feet and all this stuff, and they were fine. But so actually that reminds me, the first night I did ayahuasca, some people like to snort this stuff. It's like tobacco or something. You like snort it, and it's supposed to clear your mind. And it's called rape. And I don't know if it's tobacco or what it is, but it's something along those lines. And you like snort it, and it's like supposed to like, it just clears out your nose, and it's supposed to make your mind clear. But it doesn't work that way for everybody. So like before we drink the ayahuasca, I snorted some of that, and then like everything started coming out my nose, and it started going in the back of my throat. And I was spitting it out of my bucket, because you have a bucket. Everybody has their own bucket in case they need to puke.
Their puke bucket.
Yeah, your puke bucket. So I was like spitting out all the rape in the bucket because it was like going down my throat after I snorted it. And then I just started getting super dizzy, and I started getting super sick, and like it was not fun at all. And then it was making me sick just thinking about it. And then I had to puke, and so I puked in my bucket. It was before we even drank the ayahuasca.
Wow.
It was like right before they were going to have people start drinking it. Uh-huh. So I'm like already puking in this bucket, and then I done puking, and I just sit there, and this one guy that came on the retreat named Flavio, he was a really awesome dude. Like he came over to me, and like he started like rubbing my back, and he started talking to me, and then he started doing this thing where he would breathe with my breathing, and we'd breathe together. Mm-hmm. It was I thought it was really cool. It was a good idea for future reference. And so he started doing that, and it started making me feel a little better. And then I realized I had to go to the bathroom, you know, like because it was coming out both ends for some reason. Like just snorting this stuff was like cleansing me out, like both ends. I puked. And I was like, I gotta go to the bathroom. So I went to the bathroom, and that got nasty in there. And when I got back in, I was still a little dizzy. But I sat in that bathroom for like 15 minutes, by the way. But by the time I got back in the room where we were doing ayahuasca, like everybody already drank. The candles were already out. And Victor, one of the facilitators, the guy that owns the retreat lodging also, he got up and was like, "You ready?" I was like, "All right, I guess I'll do it." And I was like still feeling kind of sick. So I go up there, and I'm still feeling sick after all that, and I drink the ayahuasca. And then I go sit down, and I didn't even feel it. Like after that, I started feeling normal again, and I didn't even feel it the whole night. And that was it for the first night. And then the second night, no, actually, going back to the first night, after I drank the ayahuasca, I did puke once. And after I puked, I felt something on my finger, and it bit me. Something bit my finger.
Oh my word!
And I flicked it off. I could feel it like latched on, like its legs latched onto my finger. And I flick it off real fast, and then I'm like, "Victor, you got get over here!" And I was swearing. I was like, I thought I got bit by a scorpion or something. I was like, man, these things scorpions would kill you in like a day or something, you know, like.
Yeah.
And like he comes over, and it's a black wasp that was just crawling on the ground. Because I was sitting on my bed, but I had my hands over my bucket puking. Yeah. And it bit me while I was puking. So that first night, it was just rough. I didn't even have a psychedelic trip. Yeah. I just got sick off that rape that I snorted, and then I got stung by a wasp.
That's horrible.
And I not stung by it, I got bit by it. It left a gash.
Wow.
And
that's crazy.
And I'm the only one that got bit. I mean, they were all over the place, but everybody else was completely fine. Nobody was freaking out. And may I also mention that Flavio brought his whole family out. Flavio brought his whole family out, the guy that was helping me get through the rape experience. Uh-huh. And he had 3 kids with him. And he had 2 daughters. One was 8 and one was 7, I think. And then he had a son, and one was 13, and his wife, Naringa, was there too. And they were all in the ceremony, like their kids, and they all did ayahuasca. Like their kids went up, and I think the young ones, they just did a tiny bit, and they drank it, and then they would just go to sleep. And they just sleep through the entire thing while like people are tripping and like
That's interesting.
crying and stuff.
That's
and
interesting that it affected the children in a different way.
It's interesting to think about because those little girls, they seemed like really pure children. Like they were really happy. They always wanted to play. They didn't seem like they had mental baggage going on.
Well, they probably didn't. That's why they slept.
Yeah, and their son, he was kind of quiet. He seemed like he had something going on. He didn't really want to talk about it. And he said he was having an experience. Like he didn't actually sleep.
Oh.
And so he was up the whole time.
So how old was he?
He's 13.
Oh, okay.
And so he was having some sort of experience. I don't know what, but he got sick, I think, every time he did it, and he would at least puke. I don't know if he'd go to the bathroom or not. Mm-hmm. So like he was having some sort of experience, but he was a champion, by the way. Like he was doing everything, and he was like stoked. Like he loved being out there. He loved catching the tarantulas and holding them, and he was super into like piranha fishing and all that stuff. He was a cool kid.
Huh.
But he would still have an experience and stay up with us till the end. Like usually it gets over around midnight, and afterwards people would sit there and talk about their experiences.
Okay.
But yeah, so that was the first night. Second night, nothing really special. I drank it. I didn't feel anything. You know, same thing every single night. You blow out the candles and you know, you sit there for like 5 hours until it's over, till the ceremony's over.
So did you do this every night that you were on your trip, or just certain nights?
So again, we only did it 3 times total. So we did 3 nights.
Okay, and you were there for how long? For
9 days.
9 days.
Yeah, so I mean, we did a bunch of other things too besides just the ayahuasca. But and I forgot to mention, like once they blow out the candles and things start going a little bit with the ayahuasca, like the shamans will start singing, and they sing this thing called an Icaros, and I can't even really sing it for you, but it's just kind of like a tribal
Is it
style
a chant?
of singing. It's kind of, yeah, it's like a chant, but it really grows on you, like. And then like the female shaman that was with him, like she would start singing too, and this shaman was really cool. Elias was really awesome because he actually brought a guitar too, and like so he'd sing his Icaros for a while, and then he'd eventually pull out his guitar and start playing the guitar, and then singing his Icaros while I was playing guitar, and it was a really cool experience just having that. So the second night I didn't feel anything, and you know, and my friend Jeremy that went, he wasn't feeling anything either. So and every day after you do ayahuasca, you get together as a group the next morning and you do a group share and you just kind of talk about your experiences, and those are really cool because you can kind of hear how people's experiences went, and you can relate them to your own. And then when you start talking about your own, and when you're kind of under pressure and everybody's watching you, like sometimes it helps you go a little deeper and like remember things, like, because now that I think about it, the first 2 nights I really didn't feel anything, but I was seeing like faint images of like scorpions and stuff in the air, and I saw like gold. And then you tell the shamans like what you saw. Like I told them I saw like piles of gold in the air, which I don't know if I was just kind of creating that mind because I was just staring in the pitch black so hard. I was hoping to see something because I wanted to trip, you know. I don't know if that was just something I was kind of creating, but like I kind of saw images of gold, like in Aladdin, you know, in the cartoon when he goes to the cave and there's like piles of gold everywhere. Like that's the kind of thing I was seeing. So
What'd they say about it?
So the next day at the group share, I told the shamans that, and they said something about how that's a good sign that you'll have like positive things coming into your life or something.
Prosperity?
Yeah, prosperity or something else. And that actually made me feel really good. And I was like, man, I'm going to be rich. Like, that's what I thought. I was like, man, I'm excited. Like, that really made me feel good.
The sky's the limit.
Yeah, like, that really made me feel good. Like, for some reason, like, I don't even know how legit it was, but, like, I felt good, you know, and that was after the second one.
Oh, okay.
And Jeremy, my other friend that didn't really feel it either both nights, like, he was like, I wonder if I can take, like, a more powerful dose, if you guys can help me like feel it stronger. Like he was telling that to the shamans, and they were like, well, we actually have a stronger brew you can do, so we'll give that to you tomorrow night. And I was thinking in my mind, I was like, I would like to do that stronger brew too, but I didn't say anything. So the next night when we were doing the ayahuasca for the third and last time, Jeremy was first up and I was second, and Victor was like, they're going to give you the stronger brew. And I was like, hey, can I actually do the stronger brew too? And he was like, all right. And so Jeremy went up and drank it, and then I went up second and drank it, and it actually tasted really good. And the reason why it actually tasted really good is because apparently the brew that we helped make was that brew. Like we helped them make it a day before, and it was super fresh. And I realized the other brews sucked because they were like I'm guessing it's because they were older and they've been had it for a long time.
That's what I was going to ask you is, do they make it fresh for you every time? It doesn't
I
sound
don't
like
know.
that.
Yeah, I
maybe.
don't really know how they do that, but this one we drank the third night was fresh and it was more concentrated. They said this was a more concentrated version. So we drank it, and as soon as I drank it, I sat down, they blow out the candles, you know, it's pitch black, can't even see your hand. I instantly started feeling like just heavy. Like my body just felt heavy. It was like kind of like just pulling me down. And then I eventually started like tripping just a little bit. I don't really feel like it was much, but I was like, man, I can tell this thing could get really intense. And then I started feeling like I was puking. I needed to puke. And then I started tripping pretty hard. And it's hard to describe it, but like you start seeing like shapes and stuff, like colorful shapes. Even when your eyes are open, you start seeing colorful shapes and they're like spinning and they're like geometrical patterns. And there was a lot of yellow. And it was just like a really beautiful, like kind of like a different realm I was in.
Yeah.
And
that's
where
Champ.
was I with that? So it was.
Sounds.
Sorry, I lost my train of
No,
thought.
you're talking about, you felt like you were in a different realm. You felt like you were, because of the geometrical shapes and so forth.
Yeah, so I was felt like I was in a different realm, and I had to puke. And every time I do ayahuasca, when I'm like when I know it's going to be kind of an intense experience, I know that if I puke, that's when I launch off and I can lay down and just go wherever it takes me. So I was like, I wanted to puke and I was ready, and it was pretty easy for me to puke. So I sat over my bucket and I puked, and then I lay down and I was just was just gone. Like my body was completely gone. Like I wasn't even there anymore. I was in this realm of ayahuasca or wherever it is with all these colors. And it was like, I don't know, I can't really explain it, but I just felt so incredible. Like I felt so amazing for some reason. And it was like talking to me, like I was communicating with it, but I don't remember what we were talking about. I was having lots of like deep insights.
Yeah.
And then I started like talking. I was like, it feels good to talk. And then Jeremy, Jeremy, by the way, who also took the big dose, he was having a different kind of experience. He was tripping really hard, but he got really sick and he was like throwing up a ton and he just felt sick and he was just sitting there puking for like an hour. And he was just having a rough time, but after a while we were both laying there after I had puked, and you know, we were I was in this other realm and I lost my body. Like I started saying, it feels good to talk. And he's like, yeah, it does feel good to talk. And I was like, talk. And like, we were talking, and like, I remember it now because afterwards people were telling me what I was saying, but at the time it was just so automatic. And then I started singing. I started singing in the pitch black. And like, I normally wouldn't sing, you know, cause you're supposed to be quiet in the room but I was just completely gone in a different realm and I was having an amazing time. I don't remember everything I was singing, but I was singing, they said I was singing things like, this is beautiful, I love this. And I was like singing those. I was singing those words. And then I every once in a while I could feel somebody like tap me on the shoulder and be like, hey, you're being too loud. Try to be respectful. You know, other people are having their own experience. And it was Victor. And like that, I'm pretty sure that's what he would say. Yeah. And he came to me like 3 times. And then apparently Flavio came up to me one time. I didn't know who it was, but somebody came up and talked to me and like, hey, you're being really loud. I was like, well, you're not exactly being quiet. Like, apparently I said that, and I said it really loud. I was like, you're not exactly being quiet. And
that's
like,
just not like you.
Yeah. And apparently I said that. I don't even really remember it, but like, I was like, Tom was like, why do I have to be quiet if you're not being quiet? And so I like, and I was saying this pretty loud, I guess. And like, again, you know, there's like 12 of us in this room or something, and it's pitch black and everybody else is being quiet. You know, the little girls are over there sleeping. Yeah. And I'm like singing and like talking super loud. And after that, like every time somebody tapped me, it'd bring me back a little bit and I'd be like, all right, I'll try to be quiet. And then I think I'd shoot off again and start talking, and somebody would come back over, you know, and eventually I got to where I don't think I was talking anymore. And that's when I like started like discussing with it, and I started having a lot of really deep insight, and I actually became a snake a couple times and was like slithering through the jungle, and it was incredible. I wish I could remember all the insight I was getting, but I was just like, it was like I was talking to it and I was just getting a lot of aha moments. And I feel like a lot of those aha moments like really like made me feel really good afterwards. Like after it was over, when they lit the candles again, I was still kind of tripping, but I was like laughing. I was like,
Yeah.
it felt so good. I was laughing and
Well, how do you feel like,
Yeah.
I mean, having these experiences, how has it changed your paradigm of life? I mean, how are you going to move forward now in your life
so
because of it?
with ayahuasca, like at least with that ayahuasca experience, I felt like it just makes me feel better. And like when you feel better, you want the world to be a better place. So I think that just transfers over automatically when you feel better. And like, and it definitely helped me like appreciate the jungle better. For some reason afterwards, I even though I hate mosquitoes and those little bastards were just like ruining my life, and the horseflies were ruining my life. Like after that, like I just appreciated all the animals better, and I gained like more of I guess a sense of connection with them, and I feel like that's carried over with me. It's helped me appreciate life better, and like being able to like bring that over. You know, when you like feel better about life, you want life to be better because you like life. You know, you like this thing, so you want it to be good. You know?
Yeah,
and that transfers over
yeah.
with ayahuasca.
Okay.
I can't really. I wish I could remember all the insights I had, but you know, I feel like that all of those insights I had just kind of transferred into like making me feel more confident about myself and about what I was doing with my life and the goal, the track I'm on right now.
Oh, I think that's awesome. You know, I haven't done psychedelics, I haven't done ayahuasca or any of that, but I have had experiences in my life where I have felt very spiritually connected.
Yeah.
And I felt very connected to God because I believe in God, and I have felt that that God is there for me. I've had experiences where I feel very, very confident that I'm on the right path.
Yeah, I feel like that's a good point. I feel like that's a very similar experience to what I had. Like, I feel like afterwards I did have more of a belief in a higher power. You know, even though for me, like that higher power is nature in itself, whatever nature is, you know, like it's nature's like the universe or it's life. It's like, or it's evolution, or I don't even know. It's just it's the thing that's like creating everything, and
in
like
control.
it's like it's like an intelligence.
It's that power
that's running
control.
you know, running everything that's alive in a way. It's running all of us, you know, because like even though we seem like we're out of nature being in this city environment, we are actually still in nature. You know, like we originally were living in the forest, and the way nature created us is why we are where we are today. Like it's put us where we are, and we're outside still in nature. It just doesn't seem like it, and so we become disconnected from it because of that, because we're like in this concrete jungle, and it feels like we're not, you know, we're not out in the jungle or in the forest very much, and so we start getting disconnected from it mentally. Yeah. And so that's another good reason to go do this, is so you can get connected to you know, what's
to nature and to that higher power.
Yeah, well, what's keeping the earth alive, you know, like they call the jungle like the lungs of the earth, you know. It's
right. Interesting.
I think
that's really interesting.
I think it's something to do with because it's life. It's like the perfect place for life, and there's so much. I don't really know how to explain it scientifically, but I think like the jungle like helps keep the world alive. Like I mean, it's all different parts of the world that have their own jungles that do that, but like there's just so much coming from there, like so much life coming from there. Like let's say maybe like what comes out of trees that we breathe. Oxygen, like that. I mean, it gets supplied from there and things like that. That's way too technical for me. I won't go into that, but like I feel like life comes from there and it flows out into everything else in the world.
Yeah,
and that's what they call it, the lungs of the world.
Right. And that makes total sense. It makes total sense. And,
I really need to get my shit straight on that one.
well, I have to tell you that. So I have a friend that is a forest therapist.
Yeah.
And she takes you out into the woods or into the mountains or into the desert, or even if you're in the city, she'll take you to a park.
Yeah.
Just somewhere where there are trees and there's nature and you can walk in the grass in your bare feet, or
Yeah.
just totally connect. And you stand there. I mean, when I did it, we were actually in the mountains, and there were a lot of cedar trees, so it wasn't like pine trees, but cedar trees and sagebrush, and she said, face east, and she said, and then close your eyes and listen.
Mm.
And so when you start, when you really, that was tuning in to what was going on. What was I hearing? I was facing east. What did that mean? Well, what that means, I found out later, is when you face east, and if you hold your arms out to the north and the south, that actually helps to ground you.
Interesting. I don't think I remember you telling me that.
Yeah, that grounds you, and it helps to write your energy, the EMF, if you will, or not. Yeah, your own electromagnetic force within you, that your energy, your frequencies and vibrations, it helps to ground you because it's magnetic north.
Yeah.
And south. So
that's weird how that works.
Yeah, it is. It's really awesome, and and so I like to think of things in terms of energy too.
Yeah.
And so when you ground yourself with nature, you'll feel a big sense of relief.
Yeah.
You feel this. That's where all of that, the artificial electricity, if you will, that's where that goes into the ground. You get rid of it. You can get rid of that, and suddenly you feel whole again. And so nature can do that. And I believe that with you being in the Amazon jungle and having the experiences that you did, that's what that does. That's partly what that does for you, is it really grounds you.
Yeah.
And you come back feeling almost, well, you were probably worn out. I can't imagine puking as much as you did. But
I actually felt really good after this retreat. Like, I really connected with everybody really well, and I had a really deep ayahuasca experience and a really deep mushroom experience, and it really helped me connect with the jungle and appreciate it more.
Well, that's awesome.
I think what wore me out was going to Machu Picchu afterwards. Like, that was, after connecting with the jungle so deep and then going to this place with all these tourists, and like, it was just kind of gross. It was really just kind of gross.
I wondered about that actually, because
I don't like doing stuff like that. I decided.
Yeah, probably you should do that in the beginning.
I don't even.
And then end with the real positive experience of nature.
Yeah, I realized that I probably would have been better in the beginning, but I still wouldn't have liked it. Like, I just don't like that kind of stuff. I decided, even if it's one of the seven wonders of the world, like, it doesn't really compare to like going out in the jungle and like connecting as deep as we did and having all the experience we had. I mean, so going back to the jungle, because I have a lot to talk about. That we did a lot of stuff in those 9 days. So we had a guy come out on the retreat with us named Danish.
Huh.
And this guy, it's like Denes. So and he's from like Bolivia or Hungary or something like that.
Oh, okay.
He's a white dude, but he didn't speak any English when he first came here. And how he said he got connected with the Iquitos in the jungle was, he was at his house one day and he was watching a documentary on ayahuasca, and the next day he got on his bike and made his way to Iquitos.
Wow.
And he ended up living here, and he's lived here for like, I don't know how long, 5 or 6 years.
Lived in Iquitos?
Yeah, or out in the jungle.
Okay.
And for like a year, he said he lived out in the jungle by himself with his dog.
Oh, wow.
And he would like experiment with ayahuasca and do ayahuasca, and he would smoke DMT, and he eventually like got to a point where he like ayahuasca told him you can only either drink the ayahuasca or smoke the DMT, because again, ayahuasca, the active ingredient is DMT, so smoking DMT and drinking ayahuasca, there's similar experiences, but
wait a minute, what do you mean the ayahuasca told him?
Well, just when he was like drinking it, he's like, you cannot. I don't know if this is exact, but from what I learned from him, he basically said it told him you can either drink ayahuasca all the time or you can smoke DMT all the time. So you can do one or the other.
So what you're saying is that ayahuasca tells you what you need to do with it or what you need to do.
It can. I mean, apparently it did for him.
Oh, I
So,
see. I see.
so
Okay.
that's what he learned from it. And so at the time he was so he eventually went to where he was only smoking DMT. And again, like smoking DMT and then drinking DMT in the ayahuasca, it's a similar experience, but it's also very different. So smoking DMT is an extremely powerful experience, but it only lasts for like 15 to 20 minutes. And again, smoking DMT you can have a experience similar to people that have the near death experiences or have the same kind of experience.
Well, yeah, and talking about that, I just think that there are people that it probably is DMT for them, but I think there are some people that have those experiences that is not DMT.
Well, maybe, but the thing is with DMT is you can't really explain it. There's not really any science that explains it, but it could be. I mean, I'm not discrediting the people that have the near death experiences. Like they're valid experiences that we can't really explain with science or anything right now. Like they're crazy, and it's the same thing with the smoking the DMT experiences. Like people go, at least their experiences, they go to other realms, they meet other beings. Not all the time, but if you go deep enough, you do. And people go to the same kind of realms, and the beings they explain them the same way.
Well, there are people I know that have left their bodies and they actually can see what's going on in their room, and they can see their body
Yeah.
lying there, and they see the people in the room and what they're doing. And then when they come back to life, when their spirit goes back into their body, they can tell the people what they saw, and they're just like, how could you have seen that? You were dead.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
So things like that, that those are the things that I don't think are you can't explain that,
well, I
but
think
only one way.
I think
really.
one of the things with like when you die is I don't understand how this works, but apparently your neurocortex, when you die, your neurocortex gets destroyed. And so if you die and come back to life, that means your neurocortex would have to recreate itself. And so the idea is that these people never actually fully died. They were just on the brink.
Well, now that might be true, but like for instance, and I think that's fine, but I still think that we don't fully understand this.
It's true.
But because there are people, I mean, I know personally that left their body and they did see what was going on in the room, but
Yeah.
their neurocortex didn't die.
Yeah, well, I think...
And so I wonder, I don't know how that works. I mean, I really
Yeah.
don't know. I mean, because I do believe in a higher power. I do believe in God, and I do believe that God is the one in control, and we
Yeah.
just don't have all the answers.
I mean, I feel you, and I'm not discrediting the idea of a higher power. I mean, I obviously don't believe in a God as in a man that's higher, but even so, like smoking this DMT, whether it's taking us to another realm or not, or whether it's created in your head, people are really having these experiences, and it's unexplainable and it's incredible. And I'd say like the only way, I mean, if somebody that has had a near-death experience really wants to know, then they should smoke DMT, and they should and they have to do a lot too, by the way, like and they should look at studies that people have done, because there was one guy that did a study and he would inject this DMT into people through their veins, and they would have incredible experiences where they would see other beings. And this guy that was doing this study was like, I'm just trying to figure out like some science behind it and like how we can use it, and all I'm getting is a bunch of people that are swearing they went to another realm and visited other beings, and it's just really an unexplainable substance, and what's crazy about it is it gets created in our bodies, and it's not just in our bodies, it's in thousands and thousands of different plants at the same time.
Well, and I agree with you. I really feel like that our bodies are amazing, because we not only create DMT in our bodies, but we have opiate receptors, we have cannabinoid receptors.
Yeah,
we
it's
have,
insane.
we have, our bodies were made for certain things, and but those things are pretty powerful things.
Yeah, I mean, our bodies are drugs. Like, it's made up of chemicals, and those chemicals are drugs. And I mean, our body. I mean, it's weird to think about it, and it makes it even weirder when you think about how they're illegal, and a lot of the chemicals in your body are actually illegal to have if you
Yeah.
took them out. They're okay if they're in there.
This is a really a controversial topic, when you start, if you go into it politically, and which we're not going to do.
Yeah.
But just because of the experiences that you've had and what you've learned about it, and even what just a little bit that I've learned about it. I mean, you've actually experienced it. I haven't really experienced it.
Yeah.
Not the, the actual psychedelics or anything like that.
Yeah.
But I have had spiritual experiences, and they have been amazing too.
Yeah,
They're a little different though than what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And they're not, when you have a spiritual experience, like with what you're talking about, even with ayahuasca or with mushrooms or whatever, it is very difficult to explain.
Yeah,
You really can't
definitely.
give your experience to someone else. So anytime you have that spiritual experience, it was really meant for you
Yeah.
and to change you and to make you a better person, or to help you to start something or to stop something. And it is that continual process of letting go.
Yeah. It's powerful.
So did I cut you off?
No, you're good. So, I was talking about Danish, and like,
Yeah, Danish.
I was talking about how he spent so he lived out in the jungle by himself with his dog for a year, and he eventually got to a point where he was only working with smoking DMT instead of drinking ayahuasca. And and again, DMT is made out of plants. There's lots of plants with it. So he got really good at making his own blends of DMT, and the reason why he came out to the retreat with us is because he's friends with Victor, and he does his own DMT ceremonies with people. And so Victor really liked what he was about, and he really liked his ceremonies, so he brought him out to do ceremonies for us. So he was out there hanging out with us. He wasn't doing the ayahuasca because, again, he like made a pact with it or something to where he can only do one or the other. And right now he was in the realm of only working with DMT, of smoking it. Mm-hmm. So he came out there. One of the coolest guys I ever met, man. He was so relaxed, but he was so like when you look at him, like he's always like willing to make eye contact with you and smile and be happy. So he's like, he's not a guy that's insecure, but he doesn't have a lot to say either, because he's like, seems like he's so content. And then he has this dog that comes with him, and that dog's never on a leash. It just does whatever it wants, and it just follows him around. He never worries about it. He just does his thing, and it always finds him. That dog lived out in the jungle with them too, so it's like it's a jungle dog.
That's interesting.
Experienced everything.
I'm surprised the dog hasn't become food for a leopard or something.
Yeah, I mean, the dog's super content, and he does whatever he wants, and Danish goes wherever he wants, and the dog just follows him around, and he came out with us on the retreat, and he was awesome. But so we smoked DMT the second night. So the first night we did ayahuasca, then we had a day off, and that day off, 3 of us smoked DMT. So Danish, he only works with 3 people at a time when he smokes a DMT, because he wants it to be more intimate, and if you get too many people, you start losing that. Gets but yeah. So there's another Maloka that's like a 5-minute walk out in the jungle where nobody's at, because it's surrounded by the jungle. So he went out there and set up a little ceremony. He like put candles around the whole room, and then he set up 3 mats on the ground where me, Jeremy, and Nate, 2 of the other guys on the retreat, like we were sitting at, and we went out with him there around like 6 or 7 o'clock at night, and we all sit there, and he has like, again, the candles, then he has like this bowl, those bowls that make the noise, when you rub the stick on it. Mm-hmm. So he had one of those out there, and he had this long wooden pipe that was like a couple feet long.
Huh.
And then he had his DMT blend he made, and he actually has 3 different kinds of DMT.
Where did that pipe go that you have? Did you put it away?
I'll show you that in a sec. But yeah, I got it. But yeah, he has like 3 different versions of DMT. He has one called Chonga, and then I forgot the names of the other 2, but the Chonga's the weakest one, even though it's still powerful. And then there's a second one that's even stronger, than there's a third one that's really strong apparently. And Chonga is like, it's a combination of different plants. Apparently there's a little bit of 5-MeO DMT in there, which is the most powerful form of DMT. And and then I don't know the other I don't know how the blends work exactly, but so he had his blend, and so he put that in the bowl that makes the noise, and like he would rub the bowl and start making the noise a little bit, and he would do like some ritual, or he like meditates and stuff, and we just kind of hang out there for a little bit, and then eventually got to a point where he would he would take the DMT out of the bowl that he put it in, he puts it in his pipe. And he explained the ceremony beforehand, but how we were doing it is he would take a rip of the DMT, and then he would hand it to me, and I would take a rip, and then I would hand it back to him, and he would take a rip, then hand it back to me, and I'd take one more rip. So we did that. He ripped it, and he gave it to me, and I like tried to take a big rip, but I like screwed it up because I had no idea like how it was going to be, and I was a little scared like it was going to be too harsh.
Yeah.
So I took a little rip, and I didn't get that much, and then he took it, and he took a big rip again, and I got a little better, and I took a bigger rip, and then after that happens, you lay down. So I took the last rip and I laid down, and then the ceiling started to split, and it got really, everything got really blurry and like geometrical, and I didn't really go that deep, but it was still a really cool experience. And while I was laying there, he took really big rips, so he was like probably gone pretty deep. But still, he was, he does it all the time. Like, he would do it every day out in the jungle. So, like, he got his bowl, and he would go over my chakra points. He starts at your sacrum, and he starts doing the bowl over that, and he just goes up each one, and eventually gets up to above your head. And you can feel the noise from the bowl, like, going through your whole body while you're on this DMT.
Wow.
It was really incredible. And then afterwards, I would just lay there. I just laid there while he did it to the other 2 guys, Jeremy and Nate. And afterwards, he just waited for us to come back too, and we eventually sat up, whenever we felt like it. And for me, I didn't go as deep because I didn't take as big of a hits because I didn't, I guess I was a pussy. But Nate went really deep, and he seemed like he had a really intense time on it. It was really intense for him, and I think it scared him a little bit. And Jeremy really enjoyed it, and he seemed like he went decently deep too. And after that, we talked for a while, and we really connected out there, and like I actually felt really good after it. Like I was feeling really good. Like it was weird how I just felt great afterwards for some reason. Just no reason at all, or at least I can't explain it or understand it. But then after that, we decided to smoke it one more time, and this time how it was going to work is he would rip it, then I would rip it, then Nate would rip it, then Jeremy would rip it, then he would rip it again, and we go around 3 times. So we started, and like he ripped it, then I ripped it, and I was taking big rips this time, and we went all the way around, and then we all just laid down, and he actually said like some people like pee themselves or like crap themselves because sometimes when you go deep enough, you just completely let go of your body and let go of your bowels,
Oh, wow.
and that second time I took bigger reps, and I almost let go of my bowels, and like I could feel like I was letting go and I was gonna pee myself, and I was like, oh, and then I like recollected myself and held it in.
Yeah.
I was like, well, I could see how you could easily pee yourself, and then I
have to
laid
wear
down.
a diaper before you.
Yeah, well,
there.
I'm sure once you do it a few times, you probably can handle yourself better. But
Yeah, I'm sure.
I think the first time, like, you don't realize how much you're letting go of your body.
Yeah, well, your body's totally relaxing. I mean, that's
Yeah.
what it does when it dies. Everything.
That's a good point.
So,
And
yeah.
if that's being released when you die, it probably relates somehow. But
Yeah.
so I laid down after that second rip, and I feel like I could have gone deeper, but like I saw like claw hands, like crab hands or something, like coming down from the sky at me. And that's about as deep as I got, but I just saw these things coming down at me. And honestly, I can't really say, like, when it comes to like having benefits from smoking DMT, I can't really say if there's benefits from it or not, or what they are. I have only done it once, and and I think the biggest thing with it is like it's just more of if you want to explore a different realm. And people do say they gain knowledge from it, but they can't ever bring it back for some reason.
Now, that is something I've heard from people that have had near-death experiences.
Yeah.
That they see all this stuff and they gain all this knowledge, but when they come back to life, they can't remember all of it. Maybe
Yeah.
a little bit of it, but they can't remember all of the details from it.
Yeah, and that's a very common thing on DMT too. Like some people that go deep enough, they'll meet these other beings and they'll give them information, and they'll even sometimes implant things in them. And they come back and they can't bring it back for some reason. And
Yeah.
so I don't really know. Maybe DMT is not something you need to do to help benefit your life, but it's definitely a cool experience, and I felt great afterwards. So I mean, in beneficial wise, I felt great afterwards. Maybe that transfers over into real life.
Well, I think that, what you're talking about is the first time that you went to Peru and you did ayahuasca, didn't the shaman tell you that only certain people should do it? That if you're coming for a recreational experience, that or just to see what it does to you, that you probably shouldn't do it, that you need to come with a purpose.
So that wasn't the shaman, that was a facilitator out there.
Oh, okay.
And, maybe she has a point, but I think even if you're coming just to experience it, you're just going to end up getting some sort of insider benefit from it anyways. Like, it's definitely good to do things with a purpose and trying to have what's the word for it? Like
enlightened experience.
We'll have a respect for it when you're going into it. That obviously it's going to be good for anything you go into, and it's going to help you be more sensual when it comes into it, more sensitive to it.
So you were saying, you told me once that a lot of people that do ayahuasca, they're seeking answers. They're looking for something, maybe they've had some deaths in the family and they're trying to, and they're grieving. Maybe this is a way they reconcile with some of that grief, or maybe they're terminally ill with cancer and they need to bring some closure to their life somehow, or in some relationships or whatever. I mean, these are deep problems. These are big things that people have problems with, and a lot of times they turn to ayahuasca for some kind of enlightenment there.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's...
Yeah, definitely. I think it seems like with people that are in those situations, they need deeper cleaning, and it seems like, at least from the people I've seen, one time probably isn't going to be enough. Like, they need to do more times. And then when they go back to normal life, you need to figure out, if you realize the problems that you have in your life, you need to change those, it can give you insight and help you solve your problems. But if you go back to the things that were causing those problems and just let them build up again, you're just, I mean, it's good. And that's why I think it's important to consistently be doing these psychedelics, because whether you like it or not, especially if you live in the city and the other people around you, you're even after you clean yourself up a bit, when you go back, those things are going to reemerge, and things are going to get hazy again because of the lifestyles we live.
Well,
even if we're eating healthy and working out, our phones and our jobs and the people around us, it makes our minds hazy after a while, and when our minds get hazy, problems go unnoticed and they build up, and it's hard to solve them because everything's so hazy and you can't really see how to fix them, and you can't really pinpoint them. And that's one great thing about doing psychedelics like ayahuasca and mushrooms and LSD and stuff like that, is they can help you see things more clearly, and just being aware of things is an insanely huge step.
Yeah, I think so. And I think being totally aware of being aware of your thought process, and that's where I think some of the things that I promote in health coaching as a health coach is very, very helpful. For instance, I know that you're very, very good at meditating.
Wow.
and you've taught me a lot about meditating, and that's a topic for a whole different time.
Yeah.
But meditating and even showing gratitude, come like I do every night. I write in a gratitude journal. I just write 5 things down that I'm grateful for that happened that day.
Yeah.
Because I could write the same things every day, but it needs to be that day. And so when I do that, I really sleep better. I it just raises that vibration, and the energy is just increases, and I'm able to actually relax better. And so showing gratitude, expressing gratitude is one way of really balancing and grounding yourself as well.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really great for what you're talking about, we get so bogged down with life, is actually forgiving.
Yeah.
And forgiving people in our lives. I bet everybody can think of somebody. I like to have people think of 3 to 5 people that they could forgive, or that they need to forgive, and then work at forgiving them, and how much that lightens their load.
Yeah.
That will lighten their load. Another thing that is really awesome that helps you deal with life and your problems is showing appreciation to other people.
Yeah.
And that's where the Ho'oponopono comes in, that
Yeah.
we've talked about. And that's another topic for another time, but that's just basically stating, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me, and thank you, and
Yeah.
maybe in a different order, but those are things that when you say that, you can feel that energy increase in your body. And you can say the name of a person and look at their picture or whatever, and even say it for them.
Yeah.
And if you do that consistently, it actually will help them. It helps you and them, but mostly them. So those are things that I've noticed that if I do that consistently, it helps me to keep out of those dark valleys that we all have in our lives, where we get super stressed out. Including nature and going out into nature, and once you become aware of all of the things that are happening in your life and your habits, because there's a thing as habitual resistance, and that's what I think that ayahuasca or the psychedelics that you're talking about, that's what Michael Pollan is talking about as well, is that if you have something you've really hung up on, and that you really have a big roadblock with, that this can help you get past that and break down those walls.
Yeah.
So
that reminds me of an analogy. I think he said, psychedelics are like, look at your mind like a mountain of snow. And every time you have an idea and you go with that idea, you create a groove in the snow. And it's like the idea is on a sled and it's going down the snow and it's creating that groove. And the more you act on these ideas, the deeper that on the same ones, the deeper that groove gets. And when you do psychedelic, or before I get to that, so that groove gets really deep. So when you have a new idea of how you want to be and how you want to change, when you try to go down a new track, that idea that way of being always gets pulled back down, or a lot of the time gets pulled back down into that old groove.
Yeah, I can see
and
that.
that groove's so deep and it's so hard in that it's hard not to get sucked down in that groove whenever you want to change or see things from a different way. And when you do psychedelics, it's like that mountain's a snow globe, and you shake it up, and now you have fresh snow, and you're at the top of the mountain, and you've already experienced all this stuff, but you can go down a new groove easier. You can make a new groove.
Yeah, you can create a new track for yourself, a new path.
Yeah.
A new path. And that, I think that is what he's talking about with in his book, and how to change your mind. That's really what he's talking about, is how to change your path.
Yeah.
How to do that. And and that's something that I do also as a health coach, is I help people create new paths. And becoming aware of what does need to change, and if nothing else, just asking people very deep questions that they don't normally have. They have to really think They've got to really think deeply, and that's what it sounds like. What your experience has been, it's opened up new pathways that have allowed you, or given you the opportunity to think deeper about your life.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I do psychedelics, I try to just like go and be like, whatever there is to be taught, I'm open. I think I'm ready to be taught that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but being aware of the cause of the problem is such an awesome step, and I think a lot of the time, it's hard to know where that first step is, and so you get lost, and then nothing ever gets done, and things just get worse because you don't know where to start.
Right.
And I feel like that's one great thing with your health coaching is you talk to people on the phone and you go through a process and you break things down, and then you figure out where the causes are, and just realizing where the causes are can sometimes help, and sometimes just realizing the cause can help you just stop right there. It's like, oh, I am doing this, I don't need to do this, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the first step, and you've solved a huge hurdle just from being aware of that.
Yeah. Mindfulness is huge. It is very huge, and and I think one of the things that I'm taking away from our conversation today, and just from studying about psychedelics, is that just in my own personal life, is that I'm a God-fearing person, and yet I can see the benefits of this as well.
Yeah.
You don't have to be atheist or agnostic or whatever you are, to do this, because this,
Yeah.
to me, is something that there is a purpose behind it. It is it's something that can help you, like we've talked about, break down these hurdles and these walls and barriers,
Yeah.
to bring you to awareness about maybe a new direction you need to be taking in your life that will
Yeah.
make you a better person and improve your life. And so anyway.
Yeah. No, without a doubt. I completely agree. I was gonna go deeper into that, but then my mind went blank. So
Well, maybe we should end right there.
yeah, I mean, I still have
Is
a
there
lot of
anything?
stuff I did on my retreat, but that could take another 2 hours to
Yeah.
talk about all that.
I want to
so,
hear all about that. We're going to need to save that for another time, I guess.
Yeah, I guess
maybe.
so. Yeah, I wanted to say something about go deeper in the psychedelics, but whatever, I guess.
Was it something I said
Yeah,
that triggered it?
Yeah, I had something good to say, but that's all right. It's gone. So
About, okay, well,
yeah,
I don't know. I have more questions too, but maybe we'll just,
yeah. It's been like an hour and 32 minutes.
yeah.
So,
We started out thinking we were going to just do like 20 to 30 minutes.
yeah, I mean,
But there's so
realized-
much information and so much to talk about and discuss.
Yeah, I mean,
How
I
can you
realize
just do
this
that?
could easily go on for 3 hours because I still have it. I still have a lot to talk about on the retreat.
Well, see, and I even have questions on here about some other stuff too.
Yeah, I mean,
That
I guess just to wrap it up, like I'm going to be doing this retreat again next year, and anybody that wants to come out, they should message me, and I'm getting a list of emails too, so people that want to get updates on it, send me your email and I'll add you to the list. I didn't just do ayahuasca and smoke DMT. We also did an amazing mushroom ceremony, one of the most powerful experiences of my life. Victor goes, he went and picked the mushrooms himself, and so it just seems more genuine that way. And so we did a mushroom ceremony. We also did a San Pedro ceremony, or not, I guess you wouldn't say a ceremony, but a San Pedro session. And San Pedro's aka Wachuma, it's kind of just like peyote. So we do stuff like that, and then we do other things too. Like I did Kambo 2 times, which is the frog secretion. That is an amazing cleanser, and if you feel like your body needs a cleanse, like a deep cleanse, this is perfect. Like one lady, just to boost up the Kambo a little bit, there was a lady that was like trying to get pregnant for like 5 to 10 years or something, and she tried everything, she couldn't do it, and she came out to a retreat, and did the Cambo, and right after that she was able to get pregnant, and she named her kid after Victor because of how powerful it was for her. And so that's just a little bit of evidence to the power of Cambo.
So my question is, for those people that maybe they don't feel comfortable doing those things and all that, is the retreat worth going to, or
it's still, I mean, that's where I was going to go next. Like, we didn't just do psychedelics the whole time. Like, we had days off, and we did things like we went out, and Victor, he grew up in the jungle. He's a master jungle man. Like, he's like the Steve Irwin of the jungle. Like, he'll take you out during the daytime, and we'll go learn all about the different plants out there and all the healing benefits they have to them, and there's just an extraordinary amount of healing benefits to all these different plants. And then we go back out at nighttime too one night, and he'll like catch snakes and scorpions and teach us all about them, and we look for different animals and bugs and stuff, and he just knows everything about them. And so you're learning a lot from him, and on top of that, since you're with somebody that's so connected to the jungle, you're also becoming more connected, and you're learning how to appreciate it on a deeper level, and going out with Victor really takes that to the next level. Like, I think that's, if you have an intention for going out to a retreat like this, I think it should be to connect with the jungle and to gain insight on how to make your life and the rest of the world a better place. Because going out in this jungle is only going to help with both of those things, whether you have that intention or not. And having that intention can just add to it.
So so while you're doing, so everybody's, okay, so on the days that you're having your ayahuasca or doing San Pedro or whatever, what do other people do while you're doing that? Do they have to be there with you, or can they stay somewhere else?
So they do prefer that you're in the ceremony, but so two of the girls that came out, they did ayahuasca the first 2 nights, and one of them, they both had really intense experiences the second night, so they decided not to do it a third time, and so they didn't even come to the ceremony. They just went to sleep. And same with Nate, he was feeling sick, so he didn't do a third ceremony. He just stayed in his bed. So I mean, yeah, it's not a big deal. Everything's super flexible. Everybody's super nice. I mean,
yeah.
So you don't really feel too pressured when you go out there for things.
Okay. So. And what is what is the cost? What was the cost what you did? Because I know that is changes, but
well, I'm just going to do the same price as next time. It's going to be $900 for the retreat, and it's really a great deal, for everything we do and the awesome people that we have come out. We have the shamans come out. We'll probably have Elias come out again, and then we'll have Danish come out again too to do the DMT ceremonies, and then Victor and Natasha, they're amazing humans. I've talked about them a little bit, and so yeah, that's it. And then everything we're doing, it's a amazing price if you compare it to other retreats out there. Like, other retreats, like, they do 8 days and you only do ayahuasca, and you don't know if you're going to get amazing people like what we have on this retreat. And some days are like up to $3,000 for the same thing,
Oh, really?
And, well, honestly, doing even less. I think they have like they're in a more comfortable environment,
Oh.
But I think that honestly takes away from the experience. Like, when you're out in the jungle and you're like, your windows are covered in mosquito nets and you're basically outside for 9 days. Like, and that's just how people live out there. It's so nice, like 24/7, that you don't need actual glass windows. Like, you can have mosquito nets, and all you need is like a tiny sheet, and your body heat keeps you warm all night. Like, you're like, you have 9 days of connecting super deep with the jungle, and it's incredible.
Well, so that $900 is on top of your airfare.
Yeah, so that's just for the retreat. I mean, that covers all your lodging. It covers traveling from Iquitos to the retreat center. It covers all the food, and you eat great. Like, the food's really good. They try to stick to an ayahuasca diet. The ayahuasca diet really depends on the shaman. They're all pretty close, but this shaman, like, he like let us eat fish and chicken on the diet, and I mean, we were able to eat a little bit of salt, not a ton. I do know, like, on my first retreat, we didn't do any salt. It was really rough. And I don't really know how beneficial the diets are when it really comes down to it, but I do think, like, mentally, like having a diet can like help you be mentally more in tune, just
Yeah.
because you're going out of your bubble with the way you eat, and it, it can have placebo effects and stuff on you. So,
Yeah.
but
Yeah. Well, that sounds really good. So if a person wanted to do this, it's probably going to cost them maybe right around $2,100 average to do. You fly.
yeah, it's probably going to cost you around 2,100 after everything. Like flying to Iquitos usually can cost around $900 to like $1,400, depending on how you get your flights
Yeah.
and do connecting flights. And I'm glad to help people set up their flights too, because that can be a pain. And you really have to look at your flights to Iquitos as like a journey in itself, because it can be like a 2 or 3 day journey sometimes, especially if you get cheap flights. If you're getting the cheapest flights, you might have really long layovers, like 9 to 12 hour layovers in certain places. And so if you just kind of make a journey out of it and like get hostels in the places you stay at, and hostels are awesome. They only cost like $9, and you sleep with a room full of people. But everybody that I've met at hostels, like they're so cool. They're just people that are traveling all over the world. So you're just connecting with these people that are traveling all over the world. And one of the hostels I stayed at, they had like their own cafe in there, and they have like events going on, and so you're meeting people on top of that. They're really cool experiences. Like it was fun just traveling to stay at the hostels. So like if you like, let's say you go from like Florida and then you go to Lima, you stay at hostels each one, and you just like plan on exploring a little bit, eating at some cool places. It's really an enjoyable travel.
So the first time that you went, you traveled alone. So
Yeah.
how did you feel about the difference between traveling alone and traveling with people that you knew, friends?
I enjoy traveling with people. It's definitely easier. Traveling by myself was cool just because it was more nostalgic, or I don't know if nostalgic is a good word, but
Memorable.
I mean, overall,
Very memorable.
yeah, overall, it's definitely better traveling with people. I mean, it's easier, but going by yourself is definitely an experience you should have. Like, I mean, you can be more, because like when you go meet people that are new you never met before, like they're meeting a new person, so you can portray yourself any way you want because it's like fresh. But when you're traveling with people, like you can't. It's weird how it works, but you kind of have like an image of how you are, and people know how you are, and like I'm not saying it wasn't really this way with the people I went, because they were kind of new to me too, but like there's just something to like traveling by yourself that you should definitely experience. And a lot of people that go out to retreats, they do travel by themselves, and it's powerful. But overall, I would suggest traveling with people. Like this last time we went, it was a lot easier, and it's nice to have somebody to like help you,
Yeah,
help you with
because I'm
not miss
thinking
your flights and stuff.
on your flight. Yeah, on your flight down there, you did miss a flight.
I missed one flight. Yeah, it was rough.
So that was kind of rough.
Yeah, Lima's kind of a crappy airport. I don't like it.
Yeah.
They don't speak very good English there.
So you flew from Salt Lake to this last time from Salt Lake to Fort Lauderdale, Florida,
Yeah.
and from Fort Lauderdale to Lima, and then from Lima to Iquitos.
Yep.
So it is a very long flight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it's probably easier to fly from like to Los Angeles. I mean, we're in Utah, so it's different, I guess. But from here, I feel like it's better to travel to Los Angeles. But the cheapest flights were to Fort Lauderdale, so that's what we took because we're cheap.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Well, that sounds awesome.
yeah. Anything else?
I think that's probably about it. I've learned a lot from you today. I think it's something that we need to realize there's a purpose for, and it can be very helpful.
Yeah, that's a good thing about podcasts is you can go a lot deeper, because whenever you're just having a conversation with somebody randomly, you feel like you have to get through it faster because you have something you need to do, or it could stop at any time.
Yeah.
But when you're in a podcast, and if you can even plan on doing it for like at least 2 hours, you can go really into detail, and for me, that helps bring things up that I forgot too, and maybe brings new insight for myself, and
Yeah.
hopefully for others too.
Yeah, I hope so. And I guess for me, I want people to realize that it's really important to learn about different things. We have been so, I, I don't know, I guess I'm going to call it brainwashed. We have been given information about certain, I guess you can call them drugs. They alter your state of mind. So yes, that would be drugs. But like cannabis, which is marijuana, and psychedelics, and yeah, there are bad things that have happened to certain people about it, but really it's very political. There's a lot of politics surrounding this. There's a big money trail that's surrounding these. You know, you can follow the money trails and you can find just, you know, a little bit about what's going on with them politically, but when you learn the history of both of these, you will be very shocked. And I've had to have a paradigm shift, or I have had a paradigm shift, especially with cannabis, and I'm learning more about psychedelics. Does that mean that I have to do them? No, it doesn't mean that, but I am grateful that I am aware of it, and that it removes the F word, the 4-letter F word, FEAR, fear.
F-E-A-R. Yeah, well,
it removes that fear surrounding it, definitely.
Well, one thing when it comes to like doing psychedelics, especially when you're older, like I think it's better to do them when you're older because you have more things built up and like you have more of those slopes on your mountain that are really deep, and I feel like it's more important when you're older. But like, you know, people like you and like other people, like a guy at my work that I talked. No, actually, this lady at yoga, she's an awesome yoga teacher, and she's like, "Why would I ever want me to do that stuff?" And I was like, "Well, maybe you don't, but maybe there's something you're missing out on, and you just don't know until you do it." Is the thing. And the thing is, like, it's scary to do these because they can be so powerful. But I think it's mostly scary for people is because of the bad rap that they've gotten, you know, that it's just so ingrained into us. Like I see it in myself, even though I think there's such a great, psychedelics are such a powerful, amazing thing. Like I still feel that, like, that negative vibe towards them. Like, I mean, and just because of like how we've been raised and like the people in our lives that you know, that are connected to them in a negative way, you know, like,
yeah, definitely.
Like that's carried over, and it's really powerful. And so I understand why they can be scary, but honestly, like, if you really start learning about them and you learn about all the benefits and you see, and I mean, really, it seems like the best way to go about things is look at how they affect other people. And if you look at about how they affect other people, it's worth giving them a try. So that's all I got to say on that for now.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so I think this has been a great conversation.
Yeah.
I think it's been very enlightening, and I hope that it's helped someone and helped them to maybe maybe step out of their comfort zones into their growth zone.
Yeah. Right.
The growth zone is the hard and painful one, but it is definitely the better one.
Yeah, it's true. The only way you're going to grow is get out of your bubble, because how are you going to get bigger? How are you going to grow? You got to go outside of that.
Yeah. Exactly. Yep. So.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Thanks. That was awesome.
Till next time.